All right, today we're going to look at the Florida fishing products, Bahia and the Daiwa BG MQ. We're going to see how they stack up together in terms of specs and see how they compare. We're going to get them in the hand and see how they feel and hopefully help you make a decision on which one of these two reels is better for you. So the BG MQ is nothing brand new to the table. It is a phenomenal reel. It's super popular. It's one of our most popular Daiwa reels. And I think that has to do with price to performance. It's just such a nice reel. It's 210 bucks. It's not going to break the bank and it just holds up really, really well. So this has got their monocoque body. So this is an all aluminum body. The single piece, which kind of is that monocoque design, you see that big giant ring right there. So what they've done with this body is they've eliminated a lot of the fasteners on it. You'll see a couple there, but that's really just to hold that cover fancy, chrome plate on the side of the reel. But basically what they did is eliminate a lot of the fasteners in the reel where water could possibly get through. And I know you can put seals behind a screw or, on the bottom of a screw to eliminate water from going in. But if there's no hole in the first place, that's a better way to solve it than a little, rubber gasket here and there, which is still way better than nothing. But the other thing this does is that allows them to fit a much bigger main gear in this reel by this design. There's just more space in there, so they've increased that gear size by 20 to 40% depending on what size reel we're talking about here. So in addition to that aluminum monocoque body, we've also got Daiwa's ATD drag, or advanced tournament drag, and this thing is really cool, and it's got a really cool type of grease in it. So what they're saying about this grease is that it exhibits low viscosity at rest and then becomes more viscous right after drag startup. So what that does is that reduces initial drag startup inertia. So those are big words. So what that means is, if you're at rest, you're pulling on a fish, then all of a sudden that fish decides to go on a blistering run. The transition from no drag to when that fish takes off and you start letting drag out, that transition is going to be super, super smooth with the help of that grease. Then packed in the body of this reel here through there is Daiwa's DigiGear, and being a couple years old now, this is their Gen 1 DigiGear. But like I said, it's 20 to 40% larger diameter, depending on the size, when compared to other brands of reels out there. And they've also used a larger gear teeth. And what they're saying about this gear is that it lasts 1 to 3 times longer than the competitors out there. And usually when I think bigger gear teeth, it's kind of the opposite of what Shimano does with their micro module gear system, where they're using smaller gear teeth. And to me, that would make it sound like on the Shimano side with the smaller gear teeth, it'll be smoother because there's more meshing, there's more gears meshing together. But they've still made this incredibly smooth. It's very, very smooth in the hand. So now as far as the Bahia goes from Florida Fishing Products, if you're not familiar with Florida Fishing Products, they're a great brand local to us right out of the Tampa area. They're right by the airport. And if you want to talk about customer service, they have by far the best customer service in the game. But let's talk about this reel itself. So this is their middle tier reel. So we're looking at the same price, $209, just like the BG MQ, hence why we're comparing these two reels, because they're in the same price point. Let's talk about the body. So this is not an aluminum body like we're talking about with the BG MQ. This is what they call their comp light body, and it seems very, very rigid. Sometimes when you see on the spec, you see metal body, then you see comp, or you see polymer, you see some kind of fancy word for plastic. It's not always a good thing to see when compared to aluminum, but I've fished this reel a lot. This is the 4K size, but I have a 2500 that I fish a lot. I've never had any flex issues, so I don't think that's going to be an issue. They've shaved weight with this, but it's stayed very, very rigid and does not really flex at all. This also has their Talon tournament tested drag, or T3 drag they call it. And what they do with this drag system is they use a much bigger diameter carbon fiber disc. So it gets you a lot of max drag, and that's great. We'll get into the full specs of that. But one thing I like about a big max drag is sometimes I'll preach that I don't like that because it's a flexing contest and nobody uses 25 plus pounds of drag in most inshore type reels. But if you have that capacity, you're only using 10 or 15 pounds usually for most applications. So you're not maxing it out. You're not putting hardly any heat on, what the capacity of the reel is. So I like that. It's going to make the discs last a lot longer, especially bigger discs like you have in this reel. This also has their Eco Seal ball bearing. So what you're talking about there is a double shielded bearing on both sides. So you're really not going to have any water intrusion in the bearings. So let's move on and let's get into the specs of these two reels. We'll start here with the BG MQ, and we've got a 4000 size, so all the specs are going to be for the 4K size. So this reel's got a gear ratio of 6.2 to 1, has 22 pounds of max drag. It weighs 9.3 ounces. It holds 220 yards of 20-pound braid. And like we said, this reel is $209. So now let's take a look at the specs for the Bahia 4000. This reel has a gear ratio a little slower at 5.2 to 1, has a little more drag at 24 pounds. This reel also weighs 9.3 ounces, has a line capacity of 210 yards of 20-pound, and the price point's the same, $209. Now let's get these reels in the hand, get a closer look, and see how they feel. All right, here we are on the hand. And before I get to how this reel feels, guys, please take a minute to subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Many of you guys that watch are not subscribed, and we would love for you to do that. It helps us out a lot and make sure that you don't miss any future videos that we put out. But let's get into the feel of this reel. So it feels a little heavy, nothing crazy, not like overly heavy, but it feels very, very solid. Super smooth in the hand, not much startup inertia to get it going. Feels very, very rigid. I like the handle on this a lot. I really like these T-style handles. That's very subjective. It's not right or wrong. It's just what I prefer, but it's kind of got a rubberized coating on there. It's not going to slip in your hand, and it just feels good to me. Let's feel the bail now. Bail feels good. It's very strongly assisted there. It doesn't have a lot of kickback though, which I like. It's just very strong and feels great. Let's hear the drag now. Very quiet, very dampened. Sounds fine though. But yeah, it's a good looking reel as well. It's kind of this charcoal gray color with the machined accents and the silver accents, but good feeling reel. All right, Bahia in the hand now, and weight obviously feels exactly the same as the BG MQ. Smoothness is very, very good. I want to say it's definitely not quite as smooth as the BG MQ. There's just something, it doesn't feel bad. Again, it's just the BG MQ's got a little bit better smoothness for sure. But the handle's fine on this too. It's not my favorite. Like I was saying, I like that rubberized T style, but this one's an EVA foam. Still feels fine. These just have a tendency to roll on me if I'm grabbing them or something, but still works just fine. Let's feel the bail now. Bail feels great. It's a bigger, thicker bail wire, and I know this is hollow. It might be the same thing as Daiwa's air bail, but I know for sure that it's hollow. It just looks a little bigger, but it's not as heavy as it looks. Let's hear the drag now. Much more normal sounding drag. It's a little bit louder. That would sound really good with a fish taking it. But yeah, another great looking reel too. This is almost all black with some of those machined accents on it. But yeah, great feeling reel. So it's that time. Which of these two reels is the better reel to buy? And I think this is a little bit of a toss-up as far as quality and feel of the reels goes. Sure, the BG MQ is maybe a little bit smoother, a little bit better feeling in the hand, but there's something about this Bahia that I think sets it apart. And I talked about customer service in the beginning of the video, and that's where this reel really, really shines. So if you ever have any issues with this reel, let's say you dunk it, let's say something happens with that drag, if you are able to wear out those discs, something just isn't feeling right with the reel, it's getting tight, whatever the heck the problem may be, you can send this back for $43 as long as you own it right to their Tampa office, and they will rebuild with factory OEM parts. They will rebuild whatever you need done in this reel, and their turnaround time on that's 7 to 10 days. So it's not going overseas, it's not going up to wherever the heck, it's going right to Tampa, right to their office, and their service team is gonna take care of you with this reel and get you back on the water. And that goes for all their reels, not just the Bahia. They do that for their cheaper Salos as well, and they do that for the more expensive CE Pro. And I think it's customer service like that these smaller brands have that kind of give them an edge over some of the more popular, larger brands. And for me, especially if you're a guide out there, you think you got 6 or 8, 10, 12, 14 reels, however many reels you have, having service like that, so you're not having to buy stuff every year, every couple of years, or every 6 months even, if you're wearing stuff out. You're putting the heat on fish, you're catching tons of fish, and you can just send them back and get them serviced. So I think that really sets this reel apart, and it would probably be my choice between these two reels. But let us know in the comments. Do you fish this reel? Do you like this reel? Do you have the BG MQ? Let us know what you think down in the comments. But that's it, guys. We really appreciate it. If you enjoyed the video, please like it and subscribe to the channel. It helps us out a ton, and we'll catch you in the next one.